Good morning, Bucknutters. It is Monday, June 17th, 2024. I am Dan Rubin. This is the Bucknuts Morning 5 and change. A little bit of a change for you for the next few weeks. Dave Biddle has earned a well-deserved vacation, so you'll be getting all Dan for the next 2 weeks. So if you need to back out now, go ahead and I'll see you in 2 weeks. Otherwise, it's a good time to be a Buckeye. Obviously, we had a great weekend, recruiting all over it. Today, we are going to have Steve Helwagen on the show. We're actually going to be focused more on team stuff. We put a thread in the front row for Bucknuts Morning 5. Help to get some questions from our front row users. We will do that. Just know that we'll answer some basic recruiting questions, I think, at the end of the show today, given the commitments. But tomorrow we will have Mark Porter and Bill Kurlick here long term, because today there's a huge camp at the WAC, so they'll be here for that. And then we can talk about everything that went down over the weekend. Wednesday, very special guest from the West Coast. The Elite 11 is this week. We will have Andrew Ivins from Manhattan Beach live Wednesday morning. And that will be cool because Tuesday is the first day of competition. You'll get to hear how Tavia and St. Clair performed among the best. So, great show for you today. Hopefully, a lot of team stuff. We'll get to recruiting at the end. And then the rest of the week, tons of recruiting. And like I said, you want to be locked into Bucknuts all day. Great camp. A lot of big, important recruits there. Bill Kurlick and the crew is there ready to bring it to you. But you know what this is, and God forbid they would give me this ad when it's me all week. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to announce that Smooth Sack Summer is officially upon us. When you're playing in the summer sun, make sure you're groomed to the bump. Thanks to our friends at Manscaped, you can make this season your smoothest yet. The Performance Package 5.0 Ultra is the ultimate bundle to keep your boys downstairs cool while looking hot. Join the 10 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with our exclusive offer. Get 20% off with free shipping when you go to manscaped.com and use code Bucknuts. Summertime and the trimming is easy. Manscaped, even threw in 2 free gifts to their Performance Package 5.0, the Manscaped Boxers, and the Shed Travel Bag. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the code Bucknuts at manscaped.com. It's Smooth Sack Summer, boys. Get on board or get left behind. Not getting that minute and a half back. All right. Look who it is, ladies and gentlemen. Steve Helwagen. You'll notice our backdrop has changed. They went in and redid everything. We will be back to looking sharp and color coordinated tomorrow. All right. Steve, we're going to hit some general recruiting stuff at the end, given the commitments. But I asked the users for assistance because I got 2 weeks of this, and I'm not going to. By the end of this week, I will be all out of content. I'll be all popped out on vacation.
2.5 months to the season, Dan. 2.5 months.
I know. I cannot wait. By the way, if you're not as geeked as I am about this season, I don't know what it is. Maybe we can talk about that at some point. There's a little extra geekery for a geek, and I am there. All right. Let's start right at the top here. I'm not going to ask does Day need to beat Michigan? I think we all have our opinions on that. I'll tell you who else has opinions on that. Any national college football-based show who wants ratings 4 or 5 times a week. We've become the Cowboys. No pun intended. One Bad Buck asks this of you, Steve. Was Quinshon Judkins brought in to replace Travion Henderson and not Dallin Hayden?
Oh, that's a tough one. That's a good one, I guess. People get wrapped around the axle about who, quote, starts the game. And my guess is out of, I don't know, however you want to put it, if they're even, equal, whatever, my guess is Travion Henderson is going to start most of these games. 1, because he's a senior, and 2, because he's been in the program, previously, whereas Quinshon Judkins is brand new. But Judkins is a legit, first team running back for just about every team in the country. So again, let's don't get into semantics and worry about who's RB1 and who's RB2 and all that stupid stuff. Just win football games. I think that's what the answer, the ultimate answer of the question is. Quinshon Judkins was brought to Ohio State to help Ohio State win the national championship. And they understand full well after last season, seeing Henderson go down with the injury against Notre Dame and then not be effective and not be available for like the next month, that it takes a village of running backs to win at the highest level. And to me, I think Judkins is there to complement TreVeyon Henderson. And whoever gets the first snap one week or whoever gets the next week, whatever. In a million years, people aren't going to look and ask, well, who started the season opener in 2024 at running back? They're going to know what the final record was and whether they won the national championship. So, again, let's don't get worried about, who's the starter and whose feelings are hurt because they're not getting carries or whatever. Let's put it really plain and simple. These guys are paid and brought to this position at this time to help Ohio State win the national championship. So anything else is really, doesn't amount to anything, in my opinion.
Especially in this case, too, the vibe at running back in general has changed dramatically. I don't know, we could do a research project on this, but in the last 10 years, the idea of a tandem attack has become very trendy as these guys want to keep some tread off their tires for the NFL. It's not like it used to be where you wanted to be the one back and get 900 carries. I wonder if Quinshon Judkins didn't come here to get fewer carries. He had the most in the SEC the last 2 years.
Yeah, and he's also at Ole Miss, which is kind of, button up against Alabama, LSU, Georgia, Texas, Oklahoma, whoever in the SEC. Although Ole Miss is projected by a lot of people as a top 10 team this year, we'll see how they do in those nut cruncher games that, Lane Kiffin gets them into those games against the top competition, but they haven't won very many of them. So let's just see how Ole Miss was going to do this year. But to me, I think Judkins himself realized, hey, I can go there, win a championship, and be prepared to go on to the NFL. I think his dream and his goal is to be in the NFL a year from now. So I think they're both going to get plenty of work. They could both get close to, if not both, reach 1,000 yards if everything goes well. And really that, again, running the football is going to be a big part of this offense. And I know people are like, we got to throw it downfield. We got to stretch the field vertically. Well, there's nothing wrong with busting a 70-yard run like Henderson did against Notre Dame last year. I think that really takes the wind out of everybody's sails just as easily as an over-the-top bomb does. So to me, I think Ohio State is going to want to try and establish the run first and second, and then go from there. So I look at this as strictly a positive that they've got these two guys who are motivated. They understand the situation. Ryan Day put it perfectly. He said, TreVeyon Henderson knew that we had Quinshon Judkins when he decided to come back, and Quinshon Judkins knew that there was a chance that TreVeyon Henderson was going to come back when he decided to transfer. And I go back to the spring when they threw a little pass out in the left flat to Quinshon Judkins, and he is gone down the left sideline. In the back of my frame, all I see is TreVeyon Henderson giving it this. My boy is going to the house. That's all I can go on, guys, is the outward. He's not doing that for show. He's doing that because he was legitimately excited that everybody in his unit just made a big play.
Yeah. And from the Judkins angle, he wouldn't have come here if that was going to be an issue. It's not like they knew that's a list just in. They knew that could be a possibility. They broached that subject, and he's here. So let's not look a gift horse in the mouth there, but let's piggyback on that with another big name from Stony Rock. In general, what do you think Chip Kelly will do to get our running game going? How will our offensive line be helped by Chip's play calling?
Yeah, I think that what I understand, and again, we didn't get to see a whole heck of a lot in the spring. We got to see a scrimmage, and the defense really kind of dominated the scrimmage because of the pass rush and everything else. So it was kind of hard. They ran a series off the 1 yard line. I think in 3 plays there were 2 safeties. So it was kind of hard to get a lot of traction, against that, what we think is going to be one of the best defenses in the country at Ohio State. But what I understand from Chip Kelly is they have a lot of formations, a lot of movement before the snap, a lot of pre-snap motions and shifts. And what they do is they are able to effectively run the ball or throw the ball out of a lot of these different formations. They're going to give you a look, but you still don't know what you're going to get. And I think that is probably the key, or one of the keys, I think, to what Kelly is going to bring to the table. I think also blocking schemes. I think he's going to take what Ohio State's done in the past, take what's worked for him, put it all in a blender, mash it together, and they're going to come up with what works best for Ohio State in 2024 to move the chains. And I don't think they're going to have a problem running the football. I think that they are going to be just fine. If teams want to stack up against the run and put 7 or 8 men in the box, then they will have the ability to throw out of that also, and perhaps some run pass options, and also use the defense's whatever you would call it, their momentum, or their over eagerness, I guess, to get into the backfield or to stop plays at the line of scrimmage. Use that against them, and throw the little dink over the top and the little wrinkles that are part of the run game, although they're charted as passes. They still figuratively are part of the run game. So to me, I think it's going to be the best of all worlds. I think I want to see, and again, they play 3 games to open the season to warm up. Western Michigan, or rather Akron, Western Michigan, Marshall. I think that's the order. And we're going to just kind of scratch the surface probably in those games of what this offense will look like. I was asked on my chat last night, is Ryan Day going to allow Chip Kelly to run it up and allow the young quarterbacks, when they get in the game, to throw the ball, whereas Ryan Day has never done that? And I said, well, we're in a new paradigm with college football with a long season, so you need to spread those reps up across a lot of different people, and you need to develop younger players for 2025. You need to win in 2024. That's the ultimate goal. But here's a really important thought, something to think about. The seeding, when you really come right down to it, is all going to fall in place whether there was a committee or not, because the top 4 spots are automatically given to the conference champions. You could win 13 games by 1 point each, and you are guaranteed a top 4 seed as a conference champion. They can't take that away from you. So you don't have to put up style points to impress some stupid committee, because either you are a conference champion or you're not. And if you're not, then you're in the next 8 who have to play in that first round, and you go into the playoff and you're not considered a favorite to win the national championship, having to play in that first round. The first 4 teams are going to be considered the favorites.
No question. And just to get back to the running game for 1 second, here's one advantage Chip has that previous offensive coordinator did not have. Will Howard can run the football. Kyle McCord cannot run the football. That's not a personal attack on anybody. That is documented through video.
Stroud didn't run it. Yeah,
and he was not even a threat. Now, would I take CJ back in a heartbeat? Yes. So would every football team on the earth, except for probably the Chiefs, maybe the Bengals. Throw in the Bills, that's possible. But literally every other team on planet Earth would line up for him. Chip's in a good spot to make a good impression here. Let's just be honest. A lot of the stuff he's going to have going for him maybe wasn't there last year. He gets to focus in completely on the run game and kind of fixing that, and to have a read option where the quarterback might actually keep it and run it makes it, like you said, that eye candy, and the drawing one way to go another is going to be at a whole new level. All right. there's a theme developing here from Tony B. What does offensive line coach Justin Fry need to do to keep his job?
Whoa, man, that is a tough one because this is kind of a get to the national championship game or bust type season, I think, for Ohio State. They've put all the chips in the middle of the table, and we're able to get so many of those draft eligible juniors to come back to play another season for the Buckeyes with the idea that they're going to win the national championship or at least play for it this season. And so somebody asked me in my chat, again, I refer to that, and the archive of that's up on the site. What's more important, Justin Fry and the development of the offensive line or Ryan Day winning the big games? And I'm like, well, for Ryan Day to win the big games, the offensive line's got to be much, much better. So I guess that's the more important of the two, because if you get the offensive line improvement, you're probably going to win the big games. So, for Justin Fry, if they don't win the national championship, there's going to be a lot, and if they don't win it because the offensive line faltered, there's going to be a lot of people that will want his head. I think this is important next 6 months for him and his career as a college football coach. I mean, he could leave Ohio State after the end of this season in January and get a job at probably 80% of the FBS schools just on reputation. And, he's been at the highest level. He's been, UCLA, he's been at Ohio State, and could probably get a job. He probably knows enough people that he could get a job. But to keep this job, he's got to get some blue chip offensive linemen signed. And again, this is where David Jenkins, I believe, is the player, David Jenkins Jr. David Sanders. I'm sorry. Thank you. I wrote about it last night in my old brain. I can't register these names as well as I used to. David Sanders Jr. is a perfect example of a guy that, again, would be a huge get for Justin Fry in terms of, yes, we can bring in the top offensive line talent in the country. And the best thing is he can sell opportunity, because he's going to turn over probably 3 or 4 of those offensive line spots after this season. So, again, they got Carter Lowe coming in from up Toledo. He's a big timer, but people want to see him get a big timer from outside Ohio. So get a big timer from outside Ohio and put a winning product on the field, and not that garbage that we saw against Missouri where they didn't have a plan. They didn't seem to have an idea of what they were trying to do, and they had no ability to stop Missouri from dictating what Ohio State was going to do. It was like Ohio State kind of climbed into the fetal position, and that's not Ohio State football. That's Indiana football against Ohio State. That's Illinois football against Ohio State. So, Ohio State's got to be, much, much better than they showed in those last 2 games last season.
I tell you what, it does feel like everything else almost feels like a fait accompli in terms of they've got it locked up, and the offensive line is like that one thing. The recruiting of it and the execution of it on the field is kind of like that one thing that's holding us back, possibly, I'm not saying it is, from being not about the Bucks. I mean, for being exactly where they want to be. All right. Interesting. M. Caudill 11 wants to know, will the defense play its depth this year and with multiple looks? We have a lot of talent on D and hoping to see many contributors shine. There's been for you front row denizens, the idea of playing the youth, the CJ Hicks of the world. He'd be the face for this probably question. Will they get involved? Do you think they will get a rotation going, Steve, or will it be more top heavy? I know there was some concerns that the defensive line, front 4, played a little too much last year. They're all back, and there's no threat of them leaving, so I guess you could rotate now. They got no leaving leverage on you. What's your thought on all that good stuff?
Yeah, Dan, what I saw in the spring was, whether it was the first team or the second team defense, there were a lot of people that you could put trust in. and know that if you put them on the field, that they're going to get the job done. I'm looking at one particular 2 deep here, and, the starting 11 is probably as good a starting 11 as Ohio State has had on defense in a long time, probably back to 2019 when you had Okuda was still roaming this earth, and some other studs. That team, lost to Clemson in the semifinals. Yep, Chase Young was on that team. I mean, it was spectacular what they were able to do, and then the defense kind of went off a cliff after that. We all know the starters. I'm not going to list them. Sonny Styles, to me, is coming back from starting last season. I think they've got a situation there where they've got to figure out what role does he really fit on this defense. Is he a safety? Is he the third safety, second safety? Is he the second or third linebacker? Like, what is he? And I think you're going to see him deployed in a lot of different ways in disguised. And it's one thing that maybe will confound opposing offensive coordinators is, see here, they lined him up here and they used him like this. And then see here, they lined him up here and they used him like that. So I think that is kind of a wild card with what we might see out of this defense is exactly how does he fit in here. And, he's not in my starting 11 right now just because he didn't seem to be in their starting 11 at the end of the spring. He wasn't repping at safety. He was repping almost exclusively at linebacker. And the starting linebackers were Simon and C.J. Hicks. So you go to that second unit, Caden Curry and Kenyatta Jackson and Mitchell Melton were all outstanding at defensive end in the spring. There's 3 backups for 2 starters that I have no qualms should be on the field. Any down distance, first quarter, fourth quarter, wouldn't bother me a bit. Just roll with it. And I think Larry Johnson, one of his failings last year in some of the bigger games was he left Sawyer and Tuimoloau out there, and it's a diminishing return when you have to play too many plays. You can't go hard on every one of those plays. So,
Great.
Inside, Hero Canoe looked like he is really coming on. There are some other guys. Caden McDonald is a guy that really stepped up, I thought, this spring. Already covered Sonny Styles. If he's your backup linebacker, he's the best backup linebacker probably in the country.
Let's see how many snaps he gets. You know what I mean? At the end of the year, he's
they're
not going to be 12th in snaps.
They're going to find a way. And I think that Knowles is kind of a mad scientist, back there. He's like the wizard behind the curtain, pushing all the buttons. And, there's a method to his madness, I think. And we gotta give the guy space. Last year, he earned his propers, I think, with how he took the defense from where it was to where it got to where it ended up last season was obviously fabulous. And then in the secondary, I mean, these are your backups. Calvin Simpson-Hunt, who's a comer, Jermaine Matthews, who's a comer at cornerback. Like, those guys are going to be the starters probably in 2025, if not, those freshmen that came in this past year, West and Scott, who are obviously, blue chippers, and then you're bringing in 2 or 3 more blue chippers this year with Sanchez and potentially Offord if he sticks and so on. But he probably will stick. Malik Hartford at safety, is he ready for prime time? That's a good question. We'll have to wait and see. So, yeah, you got a lot of great talent, across the board on that second unit, and I have no qualms with putting them in the game. I don't know in the second quarter I need to see all 11 of the backups out there. I think I would mix and match, put a couple backups here and leave some starters in here and then flip it, and do it that way. But I think you're going to see a lot of guys play.
Defensive line, I think, would be the spot where you'll see the most rotation, especially early. Like I said,
I think you have to.
We know now that JT and Jack and Malik and those guys, they're all leaving after this year. They have to, okay? So the idea of them missing snaps to stay a little bit more fresh, I think, will be a little more appealing to them. We didn't even mention Jason Moore at defensive tackle. They are loaded.
He's a comer as well.
They are loaded. across the board here. Their second team defensive line would be one of the best in the Big Ten. So very, very impressive. And like you said, the recruiting across the board, Devin Sanchez is the highest rated defensive back we've gotten a commitment from since Jeffrey Okuda, and those are the two highest rated defensive backs we've ever gotten. So Naeem Offord is third. Is that good? All right.
I think that's pretty good.
Let's make sure we get the best questions in here. A lot of the same stuff. All right, this is a good one. Actually, I want to ask the one about the attendance first on the road. ELL Oid, E Lloyd, E Ladies Love Oid 1681. Dan, I was at the Cal game in 2013 on the road when the stadium was about 65% Buckeye fans. I'll be traveling out to the Oregon game, San Francisco native this year. They are planning a blackout, the Ducks. He's hopeful they can disrupt that. What do you expect as a reasonable percentage of Buckeye fans in attendance at Autzen Stadium? Clearly, Oregon is not Cal. I'll take my answer off the air. Go Bucks. Yes, Oregon is much better than Cal. However, that's going to be interesting because one thing you know about Buckeye fans, they are everywhere. And Autzen Stadium, Steve, this is more in your wheelhouse than mine. I can't remember the last time we played there. So special occasion travelers, this will be the stop on your schedule here. If you're one of those that likes to go to a new place every year or go to the big, this would have been the big non-conference game. It became a conference tussle thanks to the tectonic plate shifting of college football. What's your vibe on this? It won't be 65%, but it won't be 10% either.
Yeah. Well, it only seats about 65 to 70,000 at the most, I think. So it's a smaller stadium for one of the major powers when you think about it. And I consider Oregon to be up there in that upper echelon right now. They're preseason top 5 as well. There's going to be a lot of interest in that game. Ohio State, to my recollection, and I could be wrong on this, I know they've played there at least once previously, and it was in the dedication game of Autzen Stadium. It was like they've played the games at the same spot forever. It's just they went in the mid-'60s and really made it, modernized it and made it nicer and expanded it, for the modern era, what, ultimately became the modern era of college football. So I would think, I think Ohio State had never lost to Oregon until the game in Columbus. I think they were 9-0 all time against Oregon, including that national championship game win a few years ago. Until the game in Columbus, the Kerry Combs came 35-21, where they ran the same play around the left edge 17 times for touchdowns, and Ohio State still never set the edge. And so
he's going in motion, Steve.
Yeah.
The receiver's going in motion to the others. The corner's going with him, Steve.
Yeah. They vacated that side of the field, Dan. Here it comes. So, yeah, what a mess that was. So, any rate, I think it'll be 20% Ohio State. And that's probably as much as you think. I think the tickets for that game are going to be upwards of $400 on the secondary market. Easy. I mean, this is a top 5 matchup. Provided, I can't see Ohio State losing any of its first, whatever it is, 5 games. So that's the 6th game for Ohio State. So I think, they're the 2 favorites in the Big Ten right now. Ohio State and Oregon are the teams predicted. And it's entirely possible that they could play once in Eugene, Oregon, and then once again in Indianapolis in the Big Ten championship game. And, the winner of the second one is the one that's going to get all the spoils. So, not saying go out there and doink one off, but, one loss doesn't kill you. So I think, and it's hard to see that there would be 2 9-0 teams that would play in the Big Ten championship who didn't play each other during the regular season. I think there's a lot of parity once you get past Oregon and Ohio State that a lot of teams are going to beat one another. So, I think that this is going to be one of the obviously one of the 4 or 5 biggest games of the season in college football is this game, and kind of a great way to usher in this new era. It's an early in the conference season type game. And welcome to the Big Ten, Oregon. Are you ready for what we've got? Because we're coming right at you, right, barreling right over tackle. So here it comes. So are you ready?
It will be a good litmus test for Oregon, considering how well they played last year. To be able to come back this year in your first year in the Big Ten and stand in the ring and trade punches with Ohio State and the rest would be a strong statement for the program. And like you said, everyone has kind of deemed them the number 2 or 3 team. Some number 1. We shall see. All right. Here's a bizarre question. Not bizarre, and I don't know the answer to this. We'll spitball this one. Who were the 5 fastest players on the Buckeyes?
Currently?
Yeah. Well, Teddy Ginn and whoever else can line up outside will be good. Let's just go with currently.
Eesh, that's a good one. I think Jeremiah Smith, it sounds like, running these 22 and 23 mile per hour things that he's running is probably up there. Man.
Well, hold on a sec. We know this. These are usually the track guys. Let's be honest. Trey Henderson was state champ in the 100 in Virginia.
Yep.
Jaden Ballard ran track and was fantastic. So there's 3.
Yep. Over on defense, man, one of these corners has got to be Burke. Potentially could be on that list. I mean, I don't recall him getting beat deep yet.
Calvin Simpson Hunt.
Yeah, I think he's in that mix. I think Lorenzo Styles Jr. is a burner. Yeah, and I think
right. Look at that. Tone thinks we're right.
Yeah, he could be a kick returner potentially, just to get, because I think he's dynamic with the ball in his hands in the open field. I'm they've got plenty of team speed. I think to take the top off the defense, I want to get into fall practice and see who those type of guys might be, but game speed. I mean it's one thing to do it on a track, but it's another thing to do it in full pads and with people chasing you and these kind of things to put it away and or to get behind the defense or whatever. So, I think we've hit the nail on the head on some of these guys, and I'm sure that a few more of them. You got a lot of guys like a Carnell Tate who's kind of sneaky fast. It's just like you get him in a small window, and he's got the footwork to be elusive and turn on the jets when he, needs to, wants to. So I think that, you've got some guys, you got some dudes on this roster. This roster is duded out, I think. So,
one of the questions earlier was about how Chip's going to help the running game. One thing I think you're going to see this year is more design shots where there's a play that goes down and all of a sudden your ex receiver, who looks a lot like Jeremiah Smith, is in man coverage down the field. And you just close your eyes and throw that thing as far as you can. Let him go one-on-one with the guy. And
he was spectacular in the spring. So
Davison Igbinosun is another good choice. He can really fly.
Yep, I agree on that.
All right. This is interesting. Are they repping the jack role in practice? If so, who's in the rotation, how they want to use it? That was one of those things that we heard a lot about, I want to say about 18 months ago. And then I'm not sure if they didn't find the perfect fit for it or they just changed their mind and how they wanted to do things. I didn't feel like the jack was a big part of the attack. Now, they are recruiting a guy out of Cincy, Justin Hill, who is the ideal jack now. So I guess they could supplement that at some point in time. But your thoughts on the use of the jack? That might be another way to get Sonny in the game.
Yeah, I think he could be a prototype at that position. I think in 2022, they kind of put a square peg in a round hole with Jack Sawyer trying to do it. And the production and the results just weren't there during his sophomore year and impact. I mean, it's as much about sacks and tackles for loss as it is to getting a hand up in the passer's face, pressuring the passer, making the passer throw an incompletion. I mean, that or an interception. and we just don't see that with this defense, or we haven't in years past. And I think that last year improved somewhat. Still need to get more turnovers with this defense. If there's one area where this defense needs to be better, it's forcing turnovers, and that's part and parcel of what the ultimate question is here. Mitchell Melton was a guy who was kind of pegged as a jack. And again, we honestly haven't seen it put to use. I don't think they used it in 2023 much at all. But I think Melton is going to play. If he's healthy, he's going to play a big role, I think, on this defense this coming year. He'll probably play 30% of the snaps, maybe 25, 30% of the snaps, and should get, a chance to really show what he can do. So, you got a lot of guys. And one thing I think about is, when you want to go with a speed rushman package, you could go with 3 of these defensive ends and a tackle and probably not miss a beat and really, really mix some things up for the opponent. So run some stunts and twists and these kind of things. And you have one of these athletic guys coming free running up the middle. That's disaster for the opposing quarterback. So, yeah, it's going to be a fun year to watch this defense. Those first 3 games, if those first 3 teams combine for over under 3.5 touchdowns, I would be surprised. I would be surprised if they combined for 4. Maybe Marshall gets 2 and the first 2 get 1, but I don't know. It seems iffy to me. That first game could be 61-3 for all I know. I mean, Akron's the absolute dregs of society here. So
how are they going to get 3?
Yeah, how are they going to get? Well,
there's always one fumble Ruski or something every year.
Yes,
bust up our stats.
Something happens. Yeah. Heck, Miami had a safety against them. Miami, Ohio had a safety against Ohio State one year. So I think they had 2 points for a long time in that game or something. So, yeah,
who was
crazy.
The coach that said it's like going out to recess and they have the first 60 picks or something like that. You better have a lot of kids at recess if they got the first 60 picks, dog.
Yeah.
All right,
well,
last question.
Buffalo had that pass rusher, didn't they? The guy that went to was it the Bears?
Khalil Mack, dude.
Yes.
The single best performance I've seen from an opponent against Ohio State since I've been here.
Sometimes one guy's all you need.
Hey, listen, Taylor Decker, welcome to college football. That was Taylor Decker's first start. He hasn't been beaten that bad in a game since then, and I include the NFL.
Yeah.
Go look at the stats, Khalil. That was the game where I was like, there needs to be a federal investigation how this guy went to Buffalo out of Florida. But we digress. All right, last question. Who's our night game in the shoe this year, Steve?
Oh, wow. We were talking about this on the board, and it's unfortunate the way that this TV thing is working out because in the past, they gave you all the night games or most 5 years ago, they gave you all the night games before the season. In the last few years, they've given you a few of the night games and then waited until 12 days out to declare something as a night game. And it looks to me like Oregon will be a night game, 7:30 probably on NBC, I would think. I think at Penn State is going to be a noon game on Fox, you would think, with them potentially having baseball that day. So I look at it as far as the home games. Obviously, Western Michigan got tapped. I think the candidates are Iowa October the 5th and Nebraska October the 26th, and then maybe Purdue on November the 9th, but that doesn't really feel like one. I would say either Iowa or Nebraska is probably that pick. And just dependent, 2 weeks out, if Iowa has beaten Iowa State and is still undefeated, then that's probably got a pretty good chance. I don't have the full composite schedule in front of me. And that's what you have to have when you do this because, Ohio State, Iowa looks like a great game. Yeah. But if Penn State's playing USC that day or Michigan's playing Oregon that day or Washington, then it's not the top game. So, there's a lot of variables involved. And, each of these networks is paying $300 million a year. People are crabbing about the start times of these games. Noon sucks. But night games suck and this, that, or the other and whatever. And it's like, listen, this is a conscious trade-off. the Big Ten is taking $1 billion a year in TV money from these networks, and that money is trickling down to Ohio State. And within 2 years, that money will be trickling down to players who will put you in national championship contention, and players that only the top teams in the SEC and the Big Ten can buy. Nobody in the ACC is going to buy them. Nobody in the Big 12 is going to buy them, but only the top teams in the Big Ten and the SEC can buy these players, because the Big Ten has contorted itself and allowed the networks to dictate these start times, which may not be convenient for Ben and Becky Buckeye fan of Bexley, Ohio. It may not be convenient for you, but just understand, it's like the Yes Network and the New York Yankees. New York can go out and buy anybody for $300 million, and the Dodgers too, Ohtani for $700 million or whatever it is, because they've been paid the TV money. Ohio State can now go out and buy anybody they want because it's a trade-off. They've accepted, this TV deal, and just either you're a fan or you're not. Either you're going to stay up for the game or you're not. Either you're going to get up at 6 a.m, go tailgate for the noon start, or you're not. It's where we're at, boys. It's 2024.
Here's what we know for a fact. Everybody who made it to minute 42 of this podcast is staying up late to watch the Buckeyes, no matter when you kick that game off.
Yep.
Okay? We got good nutters on here. All right. We really appreciate Steve stopping by. You cannot get better team coverage than someone who's been there since. I wouldn't give that out.
God.
Steve. I don't want to give that out for you.
Since the big guy was a corporal.
Yeah. And look at his hair, not totally gray yet. Can't say that about every other coach.
I don't know. It's a wonder.
We can talk about Ryan Day's hair at some point too. He has beaten the curve. I used to say President of the United States and Ohio State coach graze you up like no other. Somehow Steve and Ryan Day have figured it all out. All right.
The before and after on presidents and Ohio State coaches is stunning.
Be careful what you wish for kind of pictures in terms of your life expectancy and your quality of life. However, keep this in mind. Huge camp today. Huge camp. Lots of guys there, including the dean. Tomorrow, I will have the dean and Mark Porter on here. Complete coverage. All the commitment talk. Who knows? We might have a commitment, another one before then. And then Wednesday morning, Andrew Ivins live at 6 a.m. West Coast time from Manhattan Beach to talk about the Elite 11. He will get up early, and we will go from there. We appreciate you guys stopping by. Have a good one.
Follow Bill and Pat on Twitter, because they will post video all day from the camp.
Yep.
Follow Bill and Pat on Twitter, and they also run a thread on the Front Row message board, and that's how you follow the camp. It really, those guys in real time. Bill Kurlick dominates camp coverage. He is the best, and just follow him. He'll have all the offers. He'll have everything. Just follow Bill and Pat.
That's no doubt. Narratives change throughout the day. That's how much it is. Guys can come here today and change their fortunes for life. I have actually witnessed it happen. So it's the all-important offer, and there will be guys here battling for it, plus a whole list of studs, and we'll be there for you.